Good morning, sixth graders. We are going to talk about practice 526. This is the practice that is due on Tuesday, May 26th. And it goes along with lesson 35. Even after the quiz, which we all completed, we are still talking about ecosystems and organisms interacting with each other. But this time around, we're going to add the concept of competition. And the reason we have competition in any given ecosystem that we study, in any given ecosystem in the natural world, is because we never have an infinite amount of food. In nature, we're never going to have an infinite amount of plants, an infinite amount of rabbits, an infinite amount of any single organisms. They're always going to be limited in numbers. That means that if you're a primary consumer, you have a limited amount of food that you have available. And when you have a couple of primary consumers, even if you have another species of primary consumers, when you have different herbivores they're all going to feed from this source of food, they're all going to compete with each other for access to that food, to access to that source of energy. And the same is true for every single trophic level. They're all going to compete for the limited amount of food that they have available. And that creates competition. That's going to create a struggle between different organisms, between different species that are going to fight with each other. They're going to compete with each other to access that energy. And that energy that they need to survive, to reproduce, to pass down their genes. So that's the concept of competition. And the way we are going to observe it is doing this simulation that is on the practice. Now this time, if you already figure out the website, if you're already good with it, if you don't need any more help and you're almost finished, you don't need to continue watching this video. This video is just for people who need help with the website. Okay, so let's look at the instructions. So there's a couple instructions right before the activity, and it says food web competition. The first step is to click the website link right below here. So this is the website link. When I click it, it's gonna take me to this website right here. Now we're gonna go back and forth between the lesson and the website, okay? So second step, it says click the lesson menu and choose food web. So if we go to the website, we're gonna see here where it says lesson. It's a drop down menu, and we're gonna click where it says producers, and we're gonna choose food web. Now when you click food web, it's already gonna connect some organisms with each other, so it's actually gonna help us for the first set of questions. And before we go to the questions, let's just understand what we're gonna see. What we're gonna see, it's kind of like this type of graphs. We're gonna see a food web. First of all, the food web that we're gonna design. We're gonna make them compete with each other. We're gonna see just a pretty visualization, a pretty model of the animals fighting with each other, the animals competing with each other, eating each other, right? And then we're gonna see the main thing we care about, which is how well those animals are gonna be doing over time. Remember from the questions that we have been doing, that we have been practicing, whenever you see a graph like this one, you're gonna see it like this. What we're looking at is we're looking at the y-axis. That's going to be our number of animals. That means that if you're going really up, that means that your species, your population is doing well. In this case, plant A is doing really well at this point of time, around day 10. They're doing really, really well. And some species down here, they're not doing that well. They're really down here. That means that their population is really low. And the x-axis is obviously time. So we're looking at this progressing over time. In this case, we're starting from day 0 and we're going all the way to day 100. So this simulation is just gonna fast forward what will happen in an ecosystem over a period of 100 days. Okay, when we start doing it, it's gonna become more clear, I promise you. So let's get to it. Actually, let's start with it. All right. So the first set of questions, it's gonna start easy. We're gonna choose one producer, one herbivore, and one omnivore. What we see in here, we already see that they pre-selected a producer for us, plant A. We already have a herbivore. This little rabbit is herbivore A. And we already have someone eating the herbivore. But what we want to do is we want to turn the squirrel into an omnivore. So right now it's a carnivore because it's eating the rabbit. But we're going to turn it into an omnivore by connecting it to the plant. The way we're going to do that is we're going to click an omnivore and we're going to click eats plant A. And then you're going to see that little connection made between the squirrel and the plant. Okay, so we already have the first food web ready to answer the questions, and it says that we need to click run when we are ready to run it. So I think we're pretty much ready. We're gonna click on run, and we're gonna see how they are competing over time, what populations are rising, what populations are falling, which animals are surviving, which organisms are surviving, and which organisms are not. Okay, so we're seeing right here in real time the plant and the rabbit seem to be doing really well. I'm sorry, the plant and the squirrel seem to be doing pretty well. They all balance each other out. They reach some balance, but then sadly the rabbits, they survive a little bit in the beginning, but they fell. They actually died off, and we don't have any more rabbits in this ecosystem. We can answer the first set of questions after that, and we're gonna go through the second example. In the second example, we're gonna do something similar. So we already answered these questions. If you wanna pause this video while you answer those questions, and then we're gonna do the second example. In the second example, we're gonna change our food web a little bit. We're gonna add a second herbivore. And if you look in here, our omnivore, we're gonna turn it into a full-on carnivore. Okay, so we should connect it just like we see it in here. If I go to my food web, the first thing I need to do is to activate my herbivore. I'm gonna make it eat plant A. And my carnivore, I'm gonna stop it from eating plants, and I'm gonna make it eat the herbivore. Okay, so right now we're gonna see what happens when I add a second herbivore. Okay, so I'm gonna click run, and when I click run, something happened. You're gonna see right here. All we end up with, and the days are still going by, but all we end up with is plants. Our second herbivore actually didn't survive that long. It survived a little bit, but it died off immediately because it's fighting with 3 different organisms. It's fighting with 2 other organisms for the same source of food. And the only one that survived a little bit was the carnivore, but it died off as soon as these herbivores died. And then all we have left is plants. Okay, so really sad turn of events. We're gonna answer those questions in here, and then we're gonna go through to our second change. Okay, now in here we're gonna do something. We're gonna reset this, so we don't need to change anything. We're just gonna click reset. So that's gonna reset the populations of all of them. So even the ones that died, we're gonna reset them so they are alive. So we're here, right here, all of them are alive again. Very happy for them. And we're gonna do a couple more changes. Okay, so again, if you choose to follow the graph in here, you can do it as well. You're gonna see in this graph and in the description that we are adding a third herbivore, and that third herbivore is gonna eat a second plant. So that herbivore is just gonna eat the second plant. Nothing else is connected to a herbivore. Nothing else is connected to the new plant, and we're gonna do exactly that. So we're gonna first activate the second plant. You're gonna see right here the background changes a little bit. And we're gonna activate that second herbivore, which is gonna eat plant B. Okay, nothing else has changed, and we're gonna click run. Now when we click run, we're gonna see those organisms again competing with each other. We're seeing what happens over time. Some of them seem to be doing well. The plants seem to be doing well as usual, like right just in the previous example. Plants are pretty happy. They get their energy from the sun, so as long as there's not a million of herbivores, I mean there is not too many herbivores, they seem to be doing fine. The other organisms that seem to be doing fine is the herbivore B, the herbivore that we just added. Actually, no, I'm sorry, the herbivore B is the organism that was prey in the first example, so that herbivore B was doing pretty well. The new herbivore actually died off. So it depends what you see in your example. It depends what you're observing in your website. But we're gonna answer those questions in here. Actually, there's only one question. Oh, nice. All right, so we're gonna answer that question. After you're done with that question, we're gonna do our second change. Okay, so we don't need to reset it. Don't reset it yet. We're gonna just add one more change to it. And this is the second change we are gonna do. We are gonna make this little deer, we're gonna make it eat the first set of plants. So that deer is gonna have another source of food to eat, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen. Okay, so we're gonna make it eat plant A, and we're gonna click run. In our case, since it already died, I'm actually gonna reset it. You can choose to reset it as well, but I'm gonna make it eat the plant A, and I'm gonna click run because I didn't have any more herbivores. I didn't have any more herbivores alive, only this herbivore right here. So I'm going to make it so. And we see, not surprisingly, this herbivore did pretty well. He had 2 sources of food, and actually this source of food ran out, right? So one producer actually died off. It's the first time we see a producer dying off. Okay. And now we're gonna answer those questions, answer the question that we observing here, and then we are gonna reset everything, and then we're gonna click all on. Okay, so this is probably the most fun one. We're gonna reset everything, and then we're gonna click right here where it says all on. We're gonna click all on. Are you gonna see the food web is gonna become very complicated? These are really cool food web. Everybody's interacting with each other. Everybody's interacting with predators, with consumers, with producers. They're all connected. This is a very well example of how connected a food web with just a couple of animals and plants can really be. Okay, we have the predator in the middle. And you're gonna see in the lesson why we only have one predator. Okay, you're gonna see why is it that we only have few predators in ecosystems. All right, after that, I think we're pretty much set. And before it's actually, yep, we just need to click run. There is no prediction, so we're gonna click run. Wow, a lot of things happening. Look at this predator. He's trying to survive, and he has plenty amount of food. He has plenty amount of animals. Where we seeing something happening. Okay, so he finished day 100, and what we observed was that obviously the plants pretty much did well. There are some predators left, right? So the wolf's still here. You can see it in the graph. If you zoom over it, we still have predators. We still have one herbivore, but pretty much everybody else kind of died off. You can see right here we have a couple of herbivores alive. You're gonna take note of that, and you're gonna answer those questions. Okay, answer those questions. There's another question in here, and then we're gonna reset it again, but this time when we reset it, we're gonna remove the predator. Okay, so no more predator. That predator is gonna close. Oh, I guess we cannot close it. We just gotta remove individually each one of them. So we're gonna remove everything that the predator eats. So the predator is not gonna eat anything. The predator is gone. So the only thing we have right here is our species interacting with each other. We have some omnivores, we have herbivores, and we have plants. And we're gonna see what's different. Okay, and we're gonna click run. I'm really excited about this one. We're gonna see what happens. Wow, as soon as we click run, only 2 consumers are alive. One of them seems to be doing really, really well. Oh, that's really surprising. Okay, so we have a lot of things happening in here, but you can see right now who is alive, who is not. Okay, that's interesting. We're gonna answer our questions. We're gonna answer what happened in here, who survived, who didn't. Just make sure you understand what the question is asking. It says who is left, what is left at the end. And we're gonna just write down, just take note of who survived. You can either check here or check in your graph. In your graph, you can actually see the number of individuals that are alive. We're gonna answer that question, and we're pretty much done. We only need to answer a final question. This is a question just again to push yourself. It's just talking about that video we observed, we watched last week about the wolves, and it was how in the Yellowstone Park, which is one of the most beautiful parks we have in the United States, we used to have, well, right now we have wolves, but for decades those wolves were actually extinct. The wolves couldn't be found anymore because they were hunted, and there were no wolves in the park for decades. And the question is asking, what do you think happened to the herbivores in the parks when the wolves, the apex top predators, weren't there anymore? And use arguments to defend your answer. So what do you think happened with the herbivores when the wolves went extinct, when the wolves weren't there anymore? And you're pretty much done with the practice. That's all for today. If you need more help, please reach me out. And also, we're gonna go through the same website on Tuesday morning practice. So please make sure you are going to every single check-in in the morning every single day of the week for the month of June. Okay? Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.